You are most welcome back to Matchbook's weekend football podcast. Let's call it what it is, lads. Wasn't a great weekend last weekend, but that happens. That does happen. Joined as ever by ex-professional footballer and current broadcaster, Mr. Adrian Clarke.
Yeah,
and at the bottom of your screen, good morning, Adrian. And the bottom of your screen, Mr. Mark O'Haire, who is nominated once again for Best Tipster in the Smart Betting Club Awards for 2021. We'll get to that in a second. He won it last year, so he's trying to repeat. But Mark O'Haire, tough one last weekend, mate. I mean, look, let's just talk about Premier League first of all. We did have one winner there. Everton, obviously, this whole Manchester United thing, that defending at the end, that basically justifies what we say about them and what you say about them and Adrian says about them week on week. You guys nailed it on the Newport game. Newport won 1-0, even down to 10 men and under 2.5. So that's 3 winners straight away. And Milan, the open goal on the continent of the weekend, 4-0 win against Crotone. But there was losses. There was losses, Mark. It was a tough weekend, mate.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Sally, the football's so relentless right now. I can't even remember who played last weekend. So you telling me which ones we won and lost is a nice reminder. It happens, and maybe I've tried to scrub it from the memory, but that's just part of the game we're in. You're going to get good weeks, you're going to get bad weeks. Anyone who says there's no bad weeks is lying. It's just part and parcel of the game. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth. It's not for the faint-hearted, but hopefully back stronger for this weekend.
Absolutely, and Adrian Clarke is kind of relentless at the moment, Adrian, isn't it? I mean, just with the football in general, that sometimes it's good to take a step back and take stock. And maybe even this week we just kind of maybe just double down a small bit, almost not even double down, but the other way around. It is fairly relentless at the moment.
It's hard to keep up because it's impossible to watch 90 minutes of every single game. Mark
does try, to be fair though. Mark does.
Yeah, I know you try as well, but it's just impossible. Plus, with 2 games every week, I think you're getting a lot of patchy form. So you get one really high octane, high energy performance. You think, wow, they're dynamite, and then they play 3 days later, they're knackered, they're jaded, and they can't repeat it. It's a minefield, really, just sort of picking and choosing where to go.
Absolutely. Look, it wasn't on the back of last weekend, but we have been nominated for Best Betting Podcast in the 2021 Smart Betting Club Awards. Now, we've won this the last 2 years, guys. So if you do enjoy our content, and remember, the season is a long one. We've had plenty of winning weeks. Do not judge us just on one weekend last weekend, please. You can find where to vote on the pinned tweets on the Team Matchbook and the Matchbook Pod Twitter page. This will also be in your podcast bio if you're listening to us on audio now. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, it will also be in the just underneath the bio and the YouTube video right after recording once I get to it. But look, I mean, it's great to be involved. And like I said, Mark O'Haire, best tipster again. He's also for best rider because, he's just a terrific rider. So Adrian Clarke, I'm getting you on this one next year, by the way. I'm going to have a word. Like, if you keep on banging out the winners and insights, you're going in there and I'm going to put you against Mark O'Haire. But,
that'd be fun. Yeah.
and Adrian, as ever, has 2 picks already out at insights.matchbook.com. So if you are enjoying our content, we would very much appreciate the vote, and let's try and get a 3-peat. It would be good. Keep a few people happy. All right, let's move on, guys. Let's move on to this weekend and the minefield that is the Premier League. And Mark, I want to start with you first, and we're going to talk about Manchester City and Tottenham. I want to take a look at the betting first of all. Okay, we didn't get this right last weekend. Let's call it a spade, right? We probably thought there was more in Liverpool, and I sensed that even, guys, when Salah equalised there, we just kind of knew that City were still going to win. It just had the makings of that. But they're currently available at just under 1.34 at home to Tottenham on Sunday. Tottenham, you can back at 9.4. The draw available is 6.1. Tottenham getting a goal and a half start on the Asian handicap at 1.99. And 3 is the total. And Mark O'Haire, it does seem like a minute ago, and to be fair, it is a good few weeks even prior to Christmas, that we were talking about Man City and what's gone wrong, but it has been anything but brilliance in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I absolutely have to hold my hands up. I doubted Pep Guardiola. I doubted this team. I was even sceptical about their recent run, talking about it last week going into that Liverpool game, saying they haven't been massively tested, but absolutely huge respect for the guy. He's clearly one of the best coaches in the world possibly you've ever seen, really. And it wasn't just last weekend. It's the masterminding of that approach and play, which the false 9 approach against Fabinho with Foden, Sterling and Bernardo breaking from midfield too, just to befuddle that defence from Liverpool. But it's the reincarnation of the team overall, the structure, tightening up the defence, resurrecting John Stones' career giving João Cancelo the sort of hybrid fullback midfielder role, which was highlighted on Monday Night Football. Ilkay Gundogan, now the dynamic attacking goal-scoring midfielder. Foden playing much more, and just coping without De Bruyne and Aguero. I think it's just been superb, really. And this week I went through the underlying numbers really for the last 16 games. And they're just head and shoulders above everyone else. It's remarkable how dominant they've been, really, since the beginning of November, which includes the defeat against Spurs in the reverse game. But during that 16-game run, they're operating off an 82% expected goals ratio. The next best in the league is 65%. They've earned 10 expected points more than the next best. They're giving up just 0.21 XG from open play and conceding 3.63 shots in the box per game. Just phenomenal figures, really. So last week was a statement win as you can get, really. And you compare and contrast with Spurs and Mourinho, whose approach at the start of the season looked to be contain, counter, score first, score early, shut up shop and hope for the best, really. And I guess since teams have worked out how to nullify the Kane quarterback threat, they've since looked out of ideas, haven't looked like they've been able to hurt teams, even when chasing games. When they don't score first, they're having very little impact on matches. And over the same 16-game sample, Spurs are actually showing a negative process. Their bottom half for expected points, expected goals, XG open play, and quite worryingly, only 3 clubs in the Premier League have averaged fewer shots in the box during that same 16-game spell. Those are West Brom, Burnley, Newcastle and Palace. So really, really bleak from a Spurs perspective. They've lost 5 of 8 against teams above them in the Premier League. Just recently, Liverpool and Chelsea have beaten them quite easily, you could probably say, in the past fortnight or so. And I expect this game to go in a similar vein. So I think the temptation, or probably the bet to play right now, would be under 3 goals. The under 3 goal line at 186, 189 it is now, actually.
Yeah, 189,
I do expect Spurs to follow the same pattern, setting up defensively and playing on the break. The City handicap, not a 1.5 for me. 1.25 might be an option, but I've kind of tried to split the difference, really. My best bet for this game would be to back City to win the match and under 3.5 goals, which you'd get around 2.2 on the market, which I think is a really decent angle and way in. I think City win this game. They should win it comfortably, but Spurs, with their sort of dogged defensive nature, can potentially keep it reasonably competitive. So that'd be where I'd be thinking.
Adrian Clarke, I looked this morning, the outright market for the Premier League, Manchester City at 1.07. Next one in the market is Manchester United at 31.0, which is 30 to 1 in fraction terms. It is over, right?
I think so. Yeah, you can't see City blowing up, can you? They're just not making mistakes. They're very, very dominant, aren't they? And just in control of what they're doing. And Mark pointed it out, they're doing this without De Bruyne and Aguero. It's mightily impressive. Pep Guardiola has regenerated Man City with slightly different players. Ruben Dias and Stones. Neither man really played in defence last season, did they? Cancelo,
they're rock
as well.
solid. They're rock solid.
Well, chucking Cancelo to the mix, who's this sort of hybrid right back, right midfielder, and you've got 3 new members of the back 4. You've got Gundogan, who's definitely pushing on a little bit more this season. Foden's come to the fore. It's a new City. It is a new City, and a very impressive one. I'm completely with Mark. I had the same down in terms of City to win, probably under 3 goals. Because if you look, actually, despite City's magic run, 6 of their last 7 home games have actually been 2 goals or less featuring. So they're not spanking very many teams at all. And Spurs also, as we know, are quite solid. They've not been sort of ripped apart on the road at all, actually, this season. Their away defeats to Liverpool and Brighton were narrow. The Brighton one was unimpressive, but it was still narrow. So they've not been blown away by anybody. I think the focus, when you've just been beaten 5-4 as well, might turn towards shape and defensive organisation. They'll be tired. I think that's a big advantage. I mean, City. I
didn't see that game last night, Adrian. Was there a few changes for Tottenham?
Great game.
Was there a few changes for Tottenham?
Well, Kane come off the bench, but he had quite a long time on there. You know, obviously with the extra time, it was 3/4 a strong team, if you know what I mean. 3/4 of the Premier League team. City, really, none of their Premier League starters played the 90. Some came off early, some came on for them. So they'll be nicely rested. They didn't really have to stretch themselves at Swansea. So, everything points towards a comfy City win. You know, if you asked me for a prediction now, I'd say 2-0 City. But that's the kind of game that I'm envisaging here. I think Mark's got the right idea here by coupling the City win with the under 3 just to take it above evens.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you, as a relative novice to this game, the difference between under 3 and under 2.5? Can you just explain it for anyone that's sort of?
Well, Mark, I think you'd be better one for. So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so under 3. So basically, if there's exactly 3 goals, you get your stake back, and under 2.5, if there's 3 goals, you lose. If there's 2 goals, you win. So it's just a kind of safety net, really. So that's why the goal line is always much more appealing with just backing the straight 2.5s, because if you back the 3, you've got that safety net if there is exactly 3 goals.
Perfect.
And there is the appeal with Asian handicaps too. You can go up to 3.25, which is like half of your stake on 3.0 and half your stake on 3.5. But Mark, just to clarify on your bet there, it's City to win and under 3.5, isn't it, or under 3?
Yes.
Yeah,
3.5.
Because that obviously gives us a small bit more security if it does land, if it's like a 2-1 City win or a 3-0 City win. Adrian Clarke, just very quickly before we go off this, look, answer me this question, because we're going to hear this ad nauseum as well, Mourinho against Guardiola, but let's be honest about it, there's no contest here anymore. We're not going back to Real Madrid, Barcelona days, or Chelsea days where, or these days are gone. They're gone. There's no contest.
Well, look, there's more than one way to win a game, and look, they've both got their merits. For me, Pep Guardiola is the most innovative coach we've seen, and he would always trump Jose for me, just based on the style of football. But I do think he's a better coach, and I even think that Pep is better than peak Jose personally. But look, you have to credit Mourinho because he's beaten Pep the last 2 times. He's found a way to win games, and for that reason, it might not be that easy for City to break them down.
And hence why we're back in the unders angle there. We know that they probably will keep it somewhat close. Yeah,
exactly. There'll be a back 4 probably. The 2 central midfielders will drop back in to make it a back 6. The wide players will kind of supplement it. Well, that Kane will drop into midfield alongside Ndombele. They will flood central areas. But is that going to work for a 3rd time in a row? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I wonder. And I wonder, do we see Jose in North London next season? That is a big question. Right, let's move on to a team we love talking about every week. Leicester City against Liverpool. Leicester, you come back at 3.6. Liverpool 2.15. The draw is available at 3.7. Leicester getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 2.09. You come back Liverpool minus quarter of a goal, as you can see there, at just under 1.86, and the total is 2 3/4, slightly shaded towards the over. Adrian, the 2 teams that we got wrong last weekend. Leicester will perennially get wrong. It's tough, but just even on Liverpool, I don't know, mate. They look gassed. They look absolutely gassed out on their feet.
They do. But there were 2 absolutely calamitous individual errors, weren't they? That gave that scoreline more gloss really for Manchester City. I thought for periods of the first half, Liverpool looked at it and they were pressing and a bit more impressive than they had been. But then they did collapse. But really, you have to pin that one up mainly on a combination of Alisson having a stinker and City rising to the occasion. This is a very even looking game, isn't it, on paper? You can say Liverpool look gassed, but they're still a class team. They're still you've still got very, very good players. They've still got plenty of motivation to make sure that they stay in the Champions League. And on this one, I know it shouldn't come into it, but it often does. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp lost his mother this week. And I just think sometimes things like that can galvanise a team. You know, the emotion of trying to put a smile back on the gaffer's face, to do it for Jurgen. It's something that you can't sort of equate it. You know, there's no data for it, but it so often happens where players will, or a team will just pull together for the manager. And yeah, I just wonder whether that might happen here. You look at the form book, Leicester, certainly the more vibrant team, playing very, very well at the moment. I thought, you know, they did deserve. They dominated Wolves last weekend. Could easily have nicked that by a goal. It didn't quite happen. So no, the form book says Leicester are excellent and Liverpool are gassed, as you rightly say. But Liverpool were superb at West Ham. They were superb at Spurs on the road. Definitely been a better side on their travels this season. So yeah, I give them a chance here. I really do. I give Liverpool a chance against Leicester. And as is absolute mindful, we so often oppose Leicester and get bitten. But for me, this will be a tight game, especially with Vardy not really back to full speed yet. I think this will be quite a tight game that Liverpool could shade. So for me, the two that I've picked out are under 2.75 goals, which is just under evens, isn't it? 1.9 something, and Liverpool on the nose. I think 2.13 the last time I looked. So those would be my two angles here, but it's not done with any certainty because the form book, the eye test tells you that Leicester are in a better place than Liverpool. But I just get that feeling this team's too good to stay in the doldrums for ages. I don't think they've lost 3 Premier League matches in a row for a long time. Actually, they've lost consecutive league games for the first time under Jurgen Klopp. They've not lost 3 in a row in the Premier League since 2014 when Brendan Rodgers was in charge. So it's very, very unusual for them to go 3 on the spin.
Mark, Adrian is on the edge of the cliff with Liverpool here at 2.15. Will you push him over and join him on this one?
Yeah, it's a really difficult game, but if I had to have an angle, those are the 2 angles I kind of picked out myself. I think Adrian was slightly kind on Leicester last weekend against Wolves. I thought it was a bit of a non-event. I thought Wolves probably had the best chance, even if Leicester were the better team. But they were flat, and it goes back to what Adrian was saying at the very start of the show, that you can't really follow up 2 brilliant performances right now, and Leicester are very much the epitome of that. I know they had Vardy coming back to fitness and Didi coming back to fitness, but now Fofana's out injured as well, who's their best defender. So, do you balance that out with what's happening with Liverpool's defence at the moment? Well, I'm not sure, because I'm hoping that Liverpool or Klopp might chuck in Kabak or Davies into the team. I don't think he can persist with playing Henderson there now. We know he's better in midfield, and we know Liverpool are better with him in the midfield. But I think I can't really add a huge amount to what Adrian's already said. I think the easy thing to forget is I guess we can be clouded by what happened last weekend against Man City and forget that not long ago, Liverpool were absolutely sublime away at Spurs and West Ham, and Leicester have often thrived on the road themselves and been very erratic at home. They've lost 4 of 6 at home against the top half, conceded multiple goals in 4 of those games as well. And I just look at the price. Liverpool were even money at Spurs. They closed up around the same price they are here away at West Ham as well. They'll be itching to set the record straight as well after last weekend. You've got the Klopp factor too. So, I'd be edging towards Liverpool than Leicester. But just one alternative, I thought, I just think Mo Salah is probably too big at the current prices in the first goal scorer market, or any goal scorer market at the moment. He's got 22 goals and 32 appearances all season, 89 in 130 Premier League games for Liverpool. He's on penalties, and crucially, Anthony Taylor is the referee for this game, who's given 7 penalties in 15 league games so far this season. Top goal scorer in the league, averages over 3 shots per game, 0.37 non-penalty XG per game. No Fofana in the Leicester team, and Didi not completely fully fit either. So
James Justin as well came off, didn't he, on a stretch? We don't know whether he's definitely out, but that could be 2 members of their first choice back 4 out.
Yeah, and I just think Salah is the one player right now at Liverpool who looks like he's capable of changing games too. So trading around 4.5 first goal scorer, which I think is absolutely fair enough for probably the best goal scorer in the Premier League over the last 2 seasons.
I think we take Liverpool here, guys. I get the angle. I get the angle with the under. Let's take them, and let's take the Salah one as well for maybe a smaller bet. Obviously, that's a 4.5. I thought Klopp got a bit of a tough time post those interviews last weekend, and obviously if there's stuff going on at home, I think the guy deserves a pass. But it's the nature of this country and the British Isles in general. People just love to knock people when they're on top, and that's generally the way it comes to.
He and Pep are very similar in character. They're such big winners that when they do lose, they do badly. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being a bad loser. No one likes losing, and occasionally you can't always be kind of happy and smiley to the press all the time. So it's going to happen. And obviously, as you say, if he's dealing with stuff off the field, we don't know anything that's going on in these players' personal lives or the coaches either. So, give the guy a pass.
Absolutely, could not agree more. Let's move on. I have moved this game up a slot. I had it in the 4, but I'm moving up Chelsea and Newcastle because I just want to talk about Tuchel, because I think this is the best thing that ever happened. And I think we were right about it too, guys. Currently, you can back Chelsea at home to Newcastle. Again, remember, this game is on Monday night at the Bridge, just under 1.28. Newcastle available at 13.0. The draw is available at 6.6. Newcastle, you can get with a 1.75 start on the Asian handicap, just under 1.95. And 3 is the total shaded towards the unders. And Mark, I suppose there's a very real move there early with the unders in that market with Tuchel, that, you know, they're winning, they're not blowing teams up, they're not conceding as well. And it's been very impressive the last couple of games.
It has, yeah. I mean, we can definitely start to see signs. I didn't want to speak too soon after his first game or two, because it is too soon, and probably is too soon to be making huge judgments, but we can start to see patterns and signs. And I think Chelsea are playing with more authority and more direction. We can still see that they're definitely keen to dominate possession, play a reasonably patient style, but probing too. And in the 4 Premier League games we've seen, they've given very, very little away to the opposition. The own goal was the only goal they've conceded, I think, against Sheffield United. They had an early scare last week, it should be said, but they survived that. And you know, you just look at those 4 games. Admittedly, they were against Wolves, Burnley, Sheffield United and Spurs, so not the most testing, but they've allowed just 0.43 XG and given away just 2.75 shots in the box per game. It looks to be some sort of 3-4-3, 3-4-1-2 he's opting for. Threats from the flanks, protection at the back, penetration in midfield, and I know he's persisting with Timo Werner, but I'm certain that will come good at some point soon. He's getting into the positions, and that's all you can ask really for a striker. So, yeah, I do like Chelsea. They are very short here. Obviously, playing Newcastle, the handicap is reasonably steep. So I thought just combine Chelsea to win and the win to nil, really, Newcastle not to score. Around 1.95 quotes you're getting on the market. You might be able to get evens closer. But Newcastle, you know, got to hold your hands up and say fair play in the last couple of weeks. 2 wins from 3, ending an 11-game winless streak, and potentially the appointment of Graham Jones on the coaching staff has sparked a bit of life into the team. Whether he's had any influence in the change of approach themselves, they've been a bit more proactive. It's paid dividends. I know they had to survive a bit of a scare with 9 men last weekend against Saints. The issue really for Newcastle, as it has been all season, is selection issues. Fabian Schär going off injured, Hendrick suspended, Wilson is injured as well. Lascelles was missing last weekend, and Kieran Clark's wife was, I think, giving birth, so he missed out as well. Manquillo had to go off injured as well, so that Isaac Hayden starting at centre-half. I think Lascelles is due back and Clark should be available as well, which helps out in centre-half, but certainly the defence is looking under strength, it should be said. Going forward, Saint-Maximin's return's been key. Almiron's resurgence too, but you know, there's a lot riding on those 2 players on Monday night, because Wilson's influence this season has been massive. He scored 10 goals, assisted 5. So that's 15 key contributions to Newcastle's 25 league goals. He's contributed 0.57 XG and expected assists per game, which is a massive number really for an underperforming team in the bottom half. So I think Newcastle, despite the kind of tweaks we've seen in the last few weeks, I think Bruce, and if it is Graham Jones behind the scenes, I think they'll be too. I think they're too wise to kind of play Chelsea at their own game. I think they'll be well prepared here, expecting what to come, play and sit in, play on the counter attack when they can. I think it'd be very dangerous to try and take Chelsea on with a proactive approach. So I do expect Newcastle to sit in, and therefore they might be able to keep the score down and keep this game competitive for longer than potentially the handicap suggests. I'd just be worried about their output without Wilson. I know Maximin's back fit, but against the Big Six and Leicester this season, Newcastle have averaged 0.44 expected goals per game, which is, you know, don't need me to tell you that's atrocious. So yeah, Chelsea to win and Newcastle not to score. So Chelsea to win to nil, almost even money, I think is fair enough.
Adrian Clarke, put me straight by all means here, right? But I do have a kind of a bit of a man crush with Tuchel, and not just Tuchel. I just have this whole Ralf Rangnick thing, and you know, you've Nagelsmann at Leipzig, and you've Marco Rose. I don't think he's out of Rangnick, but even this German thing. What are you seeing so far, even from a tactical element with Chelsea? Is it passing the eye test, and do you think it's like something that can be sustained?
Yeah, I've been really impressed. Well, Chelsea have got an all-star squad full of international quality
which we have flagged before. Yeah,
exactly. And I just think Lampard is a young coach learning his way. I think I described him as a 6 out of 10 coach, and Tuchel at 8.5, 9, and that's what we're seeing. I think we're seeing a team that is all of a sudden much more tactically sophisticated than they were. They were much more basic under Frank. they're controlling games through possession. The rotational movement is much better, and they're less predictable as a result. So I think over time they will eventually cut loose. At the moment, it's like they're feeling their way in. The moves, the structure of their moves, you can see that they've worked on them at the training ground, but they're not quick enough at the moment to just cut through the defence every single time. But over time, when it becomes more natural, I think that they'll be superb. So yeah, I think it's been a really good start for him. It's obviously not sustainable to basically face no shots on goal across these games. I mean, they've literally hardly had a scare. And I agree with Mark here. I don't see Newcastle giving them many scares. They've got
if you hang on to the ball so much, Adrian, the other team will not have a shot. Like.
Exactly.
They're well through, yeah.
It's a great way to defend. What I will say, they've got a bit more flair, Newcastle, now, with Willock in there. Sam Maximin's playing well again. Almiron, Shelby's in the team. So they've got players that can make things happen on the break. But when Mark talks about them sitting in, with those injuries, and no outlet up front with Callum Wilson. If it's Joel Linton, forget it. It's just then you just think, how can they hold out here? I think Chelsea will win comfortably. I really do. I think I'm more than happy to go on Mark's tip here. Chelsea to win 2-0. I see this as a 2-0, 3-0, or 4-0 win. That's how I see it. I remember I saw them recently against Arsenal. Lost 3-0. Arsenal didn't really get a sweat on. I think that Chelsea will sweep them to one side. So yeah, it depends which way you want to go. I'm happy to go with Mark. I fancied that it could be over the 3 goals, but I'm not totally convinced on that.
Okay, let's stick with Mark. So I do like you really hold back on Joel Linton there as well. Like, so you really feel it. It's good. It's good. Man. Let it out.
I watched him twice in a row, like because Arsenal played them in the cup and the League Cup, and as you know, I have to analyse the Arsenal games, so I'm having to watch these games really closely, and on both occasions, I pretty much didn't notice him playing. Like I just didn't notice him. He didn't do anything. So yeah, I just think that has to be the biggest waste of money ever.
He was absolutely wonderful for Hoffenheim in that last season in the Bundesliga, and it's happened a few times now. Players have come across, and it's just not happened. You wonder what's wrong there, but there is a player in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere, send him back to Hoffenheim, Marcus. That's where to go. Might find him then. All right, let's move on. Adrian, your beloved Arsenal. Let's talk about them. And we backed them last week. Jeez, I know. It can happen. It happens. But what about this week, Adrian? I'll give you the betting first. We'll talk about them then. Just under 1.87. You can back the Gunners. They're at home. Leeds at 4.4. The draw is available at 3.98. Leeds United getting 3/4 of goal start. Just under 1.86. 3 is the total. Right, Adrian? Can they bounce back in the gut? You watch them closer than anyone? What do you think?
Look, I'm very frustrated really with the last couple of results. Obviously played fantastic at Wolves, and then the red card and pen just changed it completely. And against Villa, obviously a really bad elementary mistake early on in the game. And when I watched the game back for a second time, Arsenal put some beautiful moves together. They are playing, in terms of their build-up play, the way they attack, it is not twice as good. It's 4 or 5 times better than it was during their slump. They're moving the ball through midfield to the final third brilliantly at the moment. Thomas Partey, I think, has made a big difference there with Xhaka. But it's the inside the final third. They've just not been clinical enough. And it was the same again against Aston Villa, who put bodies in the box. Leeds are a different type of team. So it will be a different game. So I'm not worried about Arsenal. Is where I'm going with that. Here though, I have to say that I do think Leeds will make it a very competitive match. I mean, they created a lot of chances against Arsenal at Ellen Road in a really exciting 0-0 where Arsenal got another player sent off. Leeds are playing great. Leeds, I think, have strung 4 good performances back to back. Rafinha is on fire. Harrison, Bamford, all playing really, really well. And they've only failed to score 4 times this season, Leeds. So you would back them to cause Arsenal problems in the game. It's just, can Arsenal profit from the chances that they would inevitably get at the other end of the pitch. That is where I'm at with this game. In the last 3 home games, Arsenal have actually kept clean sheets, 2 goalless draws, and that 3-0 win against Newcastle. So they've tightened up at home, but are we really confident that they'll keep a 4th clean sheet in a row at home to an informed Leeds? I'm not, if truth be told. Yeah. And if they're not going to keep a clean sheet, then I'm looking at Leeds on the handicap. That's where I have to go on this. I think that Arsenal could win it narrowly, could easily be a drawn game. But Leeds plus 0.75, so plus 3/4 of a goal at 1.854 is where I think where I would go in terms of the bet for this one. I think that it could be a bit of a shootout. It could be a 2-aller. It could be 1-all. It could be 3-2 either way. I just think 2-1 either way. I think both teams will score. I think over 3 is another play that might be of interest. But yeah, for me the best bet here would be Leeds on the handicap.
So we do obviously have an ongoing WhatsApp group, but I never actually ask you guys what your selections are pre-recording. So I sometimes try to second guess, and I look through the games. And this was one I thought with Leeds, with getting 3/4 of a goal start, that was one I thought that both of you guys might be aligned in. Please tell me I'm right, Mark O'Haire. Please.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm working with you like for the last 18 months or 2 years. Well,
it's the element of surprise, though, isn't it? Like we do, we I think it's better for the show that we don't tell each other what we're going to tip up. So,
absolutely do.
Yeah,
but I have to be honest. Yeah, look, I want Arsenal. Sooner or later, Arsenal will spank someone. Sooner or later, Arsenal will go 4 or 5 against somebody because of their talent and whatnot. The build-up play has been very good, but. Yeah, Leeds are very dangerous, particularly away, as we saw at Leicester.
Mark, take it away. What's your
from an Arsenal perspective as well, team news this weekend could be looking really good. I think Bernd Leno and David Luiz are back from suspension. Thomas Partey and Tierney are getting better or closer to being fit again. So I don't think there's any major injury issues, I should say, in the squad, which is positive for Arsenal going forward. However, this is a worry. You mentioned the game away at Ellen Road where they were easily second best. I thought Leeds were fantastic, and that's been unusual for Leeds against elite teams in the Premier League this season to dominate or not be exposed or opened up. I know Arsenal had opportunities, but Leeds were definitely the dominant team in that regard. So yeah, I mean, it's really funny how the media narrative or social media can drive certain stories and narratives. Really, when Bielsa was hung out to dry after Leeds lost to United in December, didn't they? And they've since won 5 of 8 games, as Adrian mentions, have put together a series of really impressive performances. Now in the top half, they're only 4 points behind Spurs, deserving winners at Leicester, utterly dominant against Palace on Monday night. Already safe, and we're in mid-February, which is remarkable, really. And 7 of the starting 11 against Palace finished mid-table in the Championship the season before Bielsa arrived. So I'm going to keep saying it every week because he just gets pelters when things go wrong. But what he's achieved there is extraordinary, really. Just improving individual players who are bang average second-tier players into Premier League footballers. I don't think it's up for debate how good he is as a coach, and take the star element out of it, and Leeds are in a far better position with him at the helm. So. They are a hard team to second guess, particularly away from home when it's been quite black and white in terms of results. But would I rather take Arsenal at odds on against Leeds this weekend, or Leeds odds against with a half-goal start? Well, it's easily going to be Leeds for me. They're averaging over 10 shots from inside the penalty area over the last 16 games. They will cause Arsenal problems. But yeah, happy to go plus 3/4 on the handicap as well, just in case Arsenal do win, just to limit the damage if they win by exactly 1 goal. But definitely in the Leeds camp.
I've got a really good stat for you from our pals at Opta. So Leeds have played Arsenal twice under Bielsa, once obviously this season, once in the FA Cup last year, and they didn't score in either game. Now, the Gunners are the only team in his entire managerial career, Marcelo Bielsa, that he's faced more than once and not scored against. So this never happened before. If he plays a team more than once, he scores against them. It's just mad. So do we really think that run will now be extended to 3 games? I just think Leeds are playing so well that I expect them to score in the game. But I do think I would back Arsenal to score at least once too. I think it should be another belter. I mean, all these games are great, aren't they? And it's difficult one to call, but I think Leeds on the handicap.
Yeah, I think it's a smart side, like you said. I do. You just give yourself a bit of cover with that 3/4 of goal start on the Asian handicap. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's do a quick recap before we get into the latter stage with EFL and weekend best bets. What have we got so far? So we have Manchester City to win and under 3.5 goals. Liverpool, we're taking at 2.15, and we're going to take Salah first goal scorer as well, which would be about 4.5 smaller play on that one. Chelsea, Newcastle, Chelsea to win to 0. And Leeds plus 3/4 of goals start on the Asian handicap. And if you have not got a Matchbook account today or tomorrow or the weekend after that, you're probably better off getting one at this stage because there is some tremendous value on some of these prices. And I'll be honest, with a lot of these sports books, you will not be able to get certain amount of these Asian handicaps as well. So that if we're talking about these and you're hearing and you're thinking, they are available on Matchbook, all these Asian handicaps and goal lines as well. If you haven't got a Matchbook account, sign up today at matchbook.com. You bet 10 quid on your first bet at odds of even money, which is 2.0 in decimal terms or more. We will match your next bet for 10 quid thereafter. And don't forget, lots of Champions League coming up again next week. Mark O'Haire will be back on board for that as well on Monday. EFL time. Adrian Clarke, take us away. You've already got 2 picks up very early doors on Wednesday evening on insights.matchbook.com. But where else are we looking this week?
Yeah, I got 2 more. So yeah, check out those. One, my best bet will be from the column. So I'll reveal all shortly on that. This is a slightly risky play, but when you look at the data and the form, I'm happy to go with it. It's Stoke at Norwich. So Stoke go to Carrow Road, the leaders. Stoke have only lost twice away from home. They are the draw specialists. They do not give a great deal away. They love a 0-0 on the road or a 1-0. As we know, Michael O'Neill from his time with Northern Ireland is mega well organised. He knows how to set teams up. And Stoke haven't won since Christmas, which is a long time for a decent team. They've had injury problems, but they've drawn an awful lot of games and they're not playing poorly. Norwich are going through a dip. It happens to all the best teams. They're fantastic at championship level. They've put in some great performances this season, but really they've struggled to blow teams away. Getting that second goal has been really elusive for them. It's actually 16 games at Carrow Road since Norwich. No, it's 16 games. The last 16 games, Norwich haven't scored more than 2 goals. So, and that actually was in a 3-2 win at Stoke. So Norwich are not blowing teams away. They're in a dip. Pukki is a big reliance on Pukki, who is getting on a little bit, and he can't do it every single week. When D has been out, I think he's back for this game. But yeah, they're just a little bit shot shy, and they've struggled to break teams down at Carrow Road. That has been the pattern of the season. So for me, Stoke plus half a goal at Norwich, 2.06 is a good play because they're capable of nicking a narrow win, and they're definitely capable of frustrating Norwich for the draw. So I think that's worth a tickle. My other one is in League Two, second meets 22nd at the New Lawn.
So we're back in the 22nd, obviously. Yeah, make the case.
but second place Forest Green at home to Barrow. Yeah, pretty much even money, 1.98. It's a really good price on Forest Green. The reason that they're priced like this is because their home form has not been as good as their away. They've actually only won 5 of 12 games at home. A lot of draws sprinkled in there. But Barrow have the worst away record in League Two. 7 points from 12, lost 9 of 12 on the road, and they go to Forest Green, who are a really good team in that division. They rack up a load of shots, second most shots in the league. They're not too shabby at the back either. I just think this screams home win for Forest Green to finally sort of, for the second half of the season, to put some results together on their own patch. So for me, it's a little bit price led. I'd back them if they were shorter, to be honest. But 1.98 to beat Barrow at home stands out for me.
And just on that, you're quoting 1.98, which is technically correct, but there's a bit of margin in that market because we're recording very early on Thursday morning. It's a League Two market, so this might be one just waiting 24 hours out, and you would probably most likely get probably even money, which is even better there as well. Mark O'Haire, you also have a selection in the lower leagues, mate. What is it?
Yeah, I was nodding on approval with Forest Green there, certainly on my shortlist. Another League Two game actually piqued my interest really. Cambridge at home to Southend. Cambridge, who had a heavy beating at Salford midweek. Southend winning away at Newport on the pudding of a pitch really. But this is still first against 23rd in League Two. Can't be having Cambridge anywhere close to 1.8 to win this game. I know the market is close to 1.8 there. So I suspect we'll get that on Matchbook too. I don't think Cambridge are the best team in the league, but I do think Southend certainly are amongst the worst, even despite the revival. And I looked into this revival since the 14th of November when they got their first win of the season. The 16 games since, that includes the win against Walsall. They've returned 6 wins, 3 draws and 7 defeats. So mid-table form, the narrative is certainly about the sort of resurgence and getting the team competitive again, getting players fit and available, and back into the fight for survival, which is all absolutely true. But the underlying process remains absolutely rank. They're still rock bottom across all metrics, like quite convincingly too. Whether that's the last 8 games, the last 12 games, or the last 16 games. So basically what's being reflected in results isn't necessarily being reflected by what's happening on the field either. So they might be running hot a little bit. And Cambridge, I think if you look at terms of form, results, process, they're still up there. 17 points from 24 in this calendar year, 8 wins from 14 at home, performing pretty well in both boxes. The Salford loss midweek was actually the first time they've conceded more than twice in any game across all competitions this season. That's a 36-game sample. They'll be itching to get back to form. And Southend's winner at Newport was a deflected free kick. They rarely threatened otherwise. Exclude the bottom 8, and they've lost 13 of 18 this season and were hammered 5-1 at Port Vale in the last away day. So I expect Cambridge to get back to order this midweek, or this weekend, I should say. I make them closer to 1.7 than 1.8.
Yeah, good team, Cambridge. The only negative is that they lost a couple of their centre halves in the January transfer window, and I think one of the rookies had a bit of a stinker up at Salford. But Southend don't have that quality goal threat really inside the final third. Yeah, Cambridge worthy favourites there.
Going against 2 of your former teams today, Adrian. Good man. I like it.
Yeah, horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, look,
what a nasty person I am. What have I become?
We need to get a few winners, mate. Don't worry about that. Mark O'Haire, go back to you, mate. I think your best bet is on the continent this weekend, mate.
Yeah, Monaco against Lorient on Sunday. Monaco, one of the form teams in France this season, 12 wins from 16 into the top 4. Title race is probably a bit too much, but they're playing really good football, really fun football to follow.
It was a mad game last weekend. 4-3 was nuts. Yeah.
It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. They looked like scoring every time they went forward and then conceding every time Nîmes attacked as well. And that's Nîmes, bottom of the league, who haven't created anything against anyone all season. So, but look at the quality going forward. You've got Golovin, Volland, Ben Yedder, just players who are too good for Ligue 1 really outside of PSG. Creating plenty. The issue is they do leave that back door open. Just 4 clean sheets in that 16-game spell. And Overs has banked now in 16 of the last 17 league games, which is unheard of in French football, really. So, yeah, I like a repeat against Lorient. 11 of Monaco's 12 home games have featured 3 or more goals, 3.58 goals per game on average. And they're facing a Lorient team who are starting to get rewards for the adventurous style of play they've put together all season, really, since promotion. 10 points from 12. They turned over PSG. They're out of the bottom 3. They rank the top 6 for XG open play ratio over the last 8 games. And their process has been decent for quite a while. Last weekend against Rams was only their 2nd clean sheet, though, of the season as a whole, really. So they do concede chances. 7 of their last 10 have featured 3 or more goals, including a 5-2 in the reverse fixture not so long ago either. So they do concede goals away at least twice or more in 8 of 11 since promotion. So Monaco should score multiple goals here, but don't discount Lorient either. So over 2 3/4 would be the play at around 1.8.
Yeah, 1.8, 2.75. And yeah, Niko Kovac, it's just like a Bayern Munich. His defence isn't very good in the South of France either. Adrian, your best bet of the weekend, mate? You already said it's on insights.matchbook.com where there's 2 selections, but tell the audience what the best bet is.
Yeah, Championship unders. I know you're a massive fan.
Oh, I love those. Yeah. Love those.
Championship unders. Look, they're averaging. I put it in the piece. I think 2.21 goals per game in the Championship this season. It's quite a bit lower than League 2, and then League 1 is the most is the highest scoring division across the EFL so far this season. But yeah, Championship games. There've been so many bad games. And when I look at Birmingham Luton, I see bad game. I see an awful pitch, and two managers that are tacticians, Karanka and Jones. Karanka's cautious by nature. He'll have hated conceding 3 last weekend. Nathan Jones has been really good with Luton on the road. They've kept so many games tight on the road this season. Only 2 out of 14 away games this season have featured more than 2 goals. 2 out of 14. And for Birmingham, only 6 out of 14 games at home have gone over 2 goals as well. So I just see low scoring affair here. 0-0, 1-1, 1-0 win either way, at most 2-0 to either side. So yeah, under 2.25 goals for me at 1.8 is my best bet for the weekend.
Yeah, so now that the NFL season's over, I've a bit more of a bankroll to be playing championship unders every Saturday. So expect a text message on Saturday morning. So what I do and what you can do on Matchbook, this is a bit kind of muggish. I won't lie. I generally will take the kind of the higher total and back the unders and put them in ACCAs and stuff. Look, again, it's kind of muggish. I have the scores on Flash score, whatever. I'm going to be watching Six Nations anyway on Saturday. So maybe I don't give a shit. So yeah, it's probably the way to go. All right, gents, we are out of time. Thank you so much as ever today. Adrian, thank you. Mark, thank you. Hopefully, guys, we will get back on the winning bandwagon this weekend. Don't forget, as we said at the top, we are nominated for Best Betting Podcast in this 2021 Smart Betting Club Awards. And Mark O'Haire, as you said, he's nominated for 2 awards. You might as well just, when you're clicking through for us, you might as well just give Mark O'Haire a vote too, because he is top class. And we all know that. So yeah, it's the pinned tweet on the Team Matchbook page if you do want to find it, and the Matchbook Pod Twitter page also, and on the bio on YouTube and the podcast. But until next week, and don't forget, we've Champions League on Monday morning. Mark O'Haire, Phil Kudramilidis and Brothers are back. Some cracking games, some really good games next week. So do check that out. But we'll be back next Thursday to preview the weekend Premier League. Until then, the best of luck with your bets, and we'll talk to you then.